So please welcome Dr. Christopher McLean to the show. Welcome, Dr. Christopher.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. You're my new friend. And I feel like in the last couple of months after meeting you at one of the Cali events here in San Diego, and the synchronicity of the Roxiva light at that time in my life it just kind of blew my mind when I knew you were giving these sessions to people before the Cali event. That light was in an interview. We talked about it like 2 or 3 days before that. So in my mind, like my reticular activating system was like Roxiva light. And then here it is, Roxiva light.
There it
So
was.
there you were. So when I met you, I got to experience that one thing. But then since I've gone to your place down in Point Loma and have got to experience many of I always say when everyone's like, tell me about Dr. Christopher. And it's like going back to the future. I don't know. It's like he has all these amazing things that are really what I feel like I believe in healing. And I one day dreamed to have a healing center, and everyone listening to this knows that because I've been talking about it so much this year. But you have this vision of what I got excited about was like I saw it because I want that. It's like I see the vision and it's amazing and it goes beyond what I ever even imagined that you have. But we're going to get into all that. But before we do, I
Okay.
want you to take us back to where, like, I know you've always been interested in like health and everything, but you really had this. Take us back to when you uncovered your magic. How's that?
Okay. Well, it all began on a cold, stormy night. No, just kidding. Back in 2009, when I lived in Pacific Beach, I was sleeping in my bed one night, and there was a whole bunch of commotion happening outside my apartment. Somebody was screaming. It woke me up out of a dead sleep, and they were screaming somebody's name, so and so, I'm going to kill you. And of course, that'll wake you up out of any deep sleep. And so, in kind of a panic, I woke up, pulled on a pair of pants, walked outside the front door, and there was this big dude just out there, just posting up on this little tiny lady. And he was screaming and yelling at her. And I just immediately yelled at him. I said, "Hey, like, what the F are you doing out here, man? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're waking everybody up." And I said, "Get the hell out of here." And he turned around and came over and kind of like bumped his chest up against me. And he's like, or what, or what? And I said, "Oh, it's not like that. It just, it's late. Everybody's getting woken up. And obviously, do you need me to give you a ride home? Do you need me to call you a cab or whatever the case may be?" And then a few of my other neighbors came out, and the whole situation just immediately escalated. He started yelling that he's going to kill me, he's going to kill my neighbors. And we just tried calming him down and getting, create a little bit of a just take a step back kind of moment. Like, let's just talk about this and let's just de escalate and try to calm things down. And he just wouldn't have it. I don't know if he was drunk or on drugs or whatever. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So you can only imagine.
Right.
And he was not calming down. And the girl was terrified. She was crying, she was scared. And after a few minutes of him doing this, I just kind of turned my head over this way and I pointed at her and I said, "Look, this lady is terrified." And while I had turned my head to look, he just cocked back and just boom. And he socked me right in my head. And I saw a bright light. And I just remember falling backwards and hitting my head on the ground. And this is, concrete, like on the sidewalk. And then I panicked immediately. I tried to stand up and I tried to like push my legs and stand up. And I couldn't move my body whatsoever. My body was just laying there lifeless. And then I started to realize that I wasn't even in my body anymore. I had actually separated out of my body, and I was basically like above myself, looking down and seeing my body there. And so it was very kind of like, all right, so what's going on? Like, where am I? I wasn't afraid. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. It was just a very like calm place to be. And as I saw myself laying down there, I saw my neighbor was fighting with this kid. And then I became kind of curious about like, all right, well, if that's me down there, then what is this? Where am I? And I basically started to feel this sort of tractor beam pulling sensation. And I got further and further away from the earth. And then the next thing you know, the earth was just this tiny little ball. And then being out in deep space, kind of just floating and looking around, I noticed I was just going and going and going. And I ended up at this blue planet. And after I got there and have, it took me several years to kind of like integrate all of this. But now that I've integrated it, I realized that I went to the Pleiadian system
Hmm.
and I kind of landed on the planet and I was surrounded by a Pleiadian family of light. And they just were hugging me. It was like a family reunion. And it was
Hmm.
the most love and light that I've ever felt and anything that I can ever remember. So it was really like amazing feeling. And not so long after that, somebody stepped forward and said, okay, you've got your recharge in, but now you have to go back. It's time to go back. You're on a mission. You're going to be a healer. And I was like, I'm not a healer. I'm a cell phone sales guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I don't
funny.
I don't know anything about healing. They said, no, you're going to go back. And so just as soon as I realized that I said, no, I don't want to go back, I was boom, straight back in my body on the ground again, laying on the floor. And I was a little bit disoriented. And, I had a double skull fracture. My neck was broken. I broke my arm. I ruptured a disc in my back. And, my eye was closed. There was blood running down my face. So it was kind of a really traumatic experience going from being asleep to having this whole near death experience that I had.
How did you know it was Palladian?
I didn't at the time I didn't realize it. I didn't know where I was, and just through talking to mentors and shamans and other spiritual leaders and stuff, come to realize that yeah, that's where you went, and that I've been told that I'm a Pleiadian star seed, and that basically I signed a contract to come here and be the crystalline being. But when you come here, you forget. Like
Right.
you go through a barrier and you forget who you are. You forget why you came here. And so this was like kind of a reminder, like a refresher course. Okay, so you're going to go back and resume this mission that you didn't even know you were on.
Wow.
And
So
so
that guy
anyway,
had to, that guy, you know, that guy, the guy that hit you, like he played a big part in this, your awakening. Like did you thank him in your, in your
yeah, I
prayers?
mean, and where I am now in the whole process is that I've forgiven him for what happened, and I see it as like it was a bridge to getting to where I am now. And so
Right.
there's a lot more details about that story, and I'll spare all the gory details and everything. But I did go to the hospital, and I found out all these things, and I just remember praying to Source, like, please don't let me have surgery. The doctor told me if I don't have surgery on my eye, I'm going to lose my eye. I'll go blind in my left eye. They wanted to put a halo brace on me, which is like screw bolts in your head like Frankenstein, because
Right.
my neck was broken. I came to find out like about 6 months later that my herniated disc, I would just be walking along and my left leg would just give out on me, and my leg would crumble to the ground and my knee would scrape the ground. And
Mm.
the doctor told me, if you don't have this spine surgery, you're going to become paralyzed and you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And so I went on the medical merry-go-round. I signed up for this program with the state of California because I didn't have health insurance at the time. And it's a program designed to help people that have been injured during violent crimes. But when I went to the police station, I didn't really know all the logistics of it. And it was about 3 days after the injury, and I didn't have an eye in my head. I didn't really even know what was going on. And I
Right.
filled out some paperwork. And one of the questions was, do you plan to file a civil suit? I said, yes, I'm going to file charges. I'm going to file a civil suit. And so I got on this medical merry-go-round. I went to like pain management specialist. I wore a soft collar on my neck for about 10 months.
Oh,
I had a
geez.
home TENS unit that they would put energy into my body. I went to an orthopedic doctor, and I'm not even kidding you. Like all they would do is just you stand there and they're going to look at you from one side and look at you from the other side. Nobody ever like touched me or put their hands on me and felt my neck or like what was
Huh.
going on. It was just like, take this prescription to the pharmacy, come back next week and we'll do an epidural injection. in your spine to help your neck. And you can drive yourself because I'm allergic to anesthesia. I can't go under anesthesia. They
Oh,
have to
wow.
do like local, like just put, numb it and then
Numbing. Oh,
shove
wow.
this thing in there. And I mean, I had a total bad reaction to that. And my muscles locked up for like 2 weeks and I was paralyzed. Do the surgery on my eye because my left eye was was basically crushed.
Wow.
Okay, behind my eye socket, all the bones behind my eye were completely crushed. And so they were going to do this surgery where they basically remove your eyeball and put a plate behind your eye. And it was really kind of a dramatic surgery. But this guy was going to do it as part of this program as a pro bono thing. These doctors donate their services, but it was up in Beverly Hills. So I was in the car driving up to Beverly Hills, and the lady from the program called me and she's crying. And I'm like, what's going on? She said, well, I'm sorry. You have to turn around and go home. There's going to be no surgery. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, somehow, when you filled out that paperwork in the beginning and you said you were going to check the box about filing your civil
The
suit,
civil. Wow.
that basically absolves them of having to help you. I didn't even have a lawyer. I didn't even know what that meant. But because I had done that, she said, basically, you're kicked out of the program. So
Oh,
all this
no.
money they were going to give me to help me pay my rent, pay my medical bills, and provide this ongoing treatment, get me the spinal surgery, get me the surgery on my eye. And so I was basically was driving home from there like dejected, like, what am I going to do now? I don't even know
Right.
who to go to or who to talk to. And I had been to a chiropractor downtown San Diego before I drove my neighbor there because he was in an injury. And while I was there, I talked to the chiropractor and he had worked on me a few times, but I hadn't seen him in probably a year and a half since then. And that's all I could think of was just go back to see him.
Right.
And long story short, I went back to see him and he would adjust me and he sent me to Pilates twice a week. I
Huh.
started moving my body, but I mean, I couldn't sleep more than an hour, hour and a half at night. I was in so much pain from my neck and my back and my head. And then he was like, yeah, you need to go start walking 2 miles a day. And I told him, oh, really? Well, you can go F yourself 2 times a day because I couldn't even like sleep or go to the bathroom or anything like that.
Wow.
I was in so much discomfort. But actually, what started happening was I started moving my body. I started getting my nervous system reconnected. I did some counseling and kind of came to grips with the physical trauma and the incident of being attacked by this kid. And I had post traumatic stress disorder. Like every time I'd see somebody that even looked like him, my
Oh, I
heart would
bet.
race. And I mean, this whole thing went on. I was out of work for about 18 months after the injury. And then one day I went to go buy food for my birds, and there was a apply, job offering thing on the door. And I applied and I started working. I owned my own business prior to that, doing cell phone solutions for small businesses. And then here I am, like, out of work for 18 months. And then I got a job making $8 an hour working in a bird store,
Oh my gosh.
you know?
Christopher.
And so I was just, getting back on my feet and trying to pay my bills and trying to recover from my injuries. And I one of the days I was at the bird store, this lady called me, and she was somebody that I had collaborated with previously in the cell phone industry. She said, "Hey, I have a position for you at my store out in Rancho San Diego." And I went out and interviewed with her and started working with her like the very next week. And then
Huh.
about 6 months later, I showed up for work one day and the doors were locked and the lights were off. And I called her up and she said, yeah, we got downsized because we were like tied in with Sprint. And they just closed down our operation. They didn't say anything in advance. They just showed up that day and there was like no placement. We're not getting moved anywhere else. So again, I'm driving home dejected, just like after the whole medical merry-go-round problem. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, like what, next, what am I going to do now? I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to go work at the bird store again. I don't want to like do the same job that I'm doing. And I got home and I was looking on the internet and I found this ad for a health coach training program. And I remembered, oh yeah, like they said I was going to be a healer. And I had met with this lady the week before and she did like a tarot reading on me. And she's like, I see this big tree behind you. And she said, yeah, you're going to be a healer. And I was like, get out of here. I didn't believe her. I'm not going to be a healer, anything. But then the two things just kind of came together. I saw this health coach training program. It was a 12-month online program. So I just got home and I signed up for it right away that day.
Huh. I love
And,
it.
I got the materials and it ended up being a lot different than the way they had presented it. But I decided to stay with the program anyway. And during that time, the chiropractor that I was working with invited me to use a conference room at his office building downtown. And I was giving weekly discussions about celiac disease. I have gluten intolerance through celiac. And I was giving weekly presentations and I kind of fancied myself as the gluten-free empowerment coach. And he was letting me, get patients out of his office and do events. And then one day we went to this event at the City College, which is called the Stand Down. And it's a 3-day event where they round up homeless military veterans and cut their hair and give them clothing and help them find a shelter. And, if they need a driver's license, social security card. But there was a group of students from the Southern California University of Health Science that were there volunteering their services as chiropractors. And so I just went over and I was fascinated because I was there with the chiropractor and I started talking to them about everything, neurology, nutrition. They said, oh yeah, well, we learned all about neurology. We learned all about nutrition. You should go up to LA and just check out the school. So the next day I got on my little motorcycle and I drove up to LA
Oh
and
my
went
gosh.
into the admissions office and I sat down with one of the counselors. And turns out, the universe kind of just lined everything up. And when I got onto the campus, I looked at their flag and it had this uh, logo. If you go to the Southern California University of Health Sciences website, it looks like an angel.
Huh.
Okay. It's like the caduceus, but it was like a simplified version, like an angel. And I was like, wow, I feel like I'm in the right place.
Oh.
So I'm sitting there waiting in the lobby, and this lady was taking forever to go through the paperwork. And I was just like, I doubted myself. I was like, there's no way I'm getting in. Like, I'm 40 years old and 43 years old actually at the time. And, I'm like, this is a science thing. And I didn't do science in undergraduate. And so I grabbed my motorcycle helmet and I started walking out to the front and getting out to the front of the school. And this lady like comes running down. She chased me down. She's like, where are you going? I said, well, I'm just going to go back to San Diego. She goes, well, you're in.
Oh.
And so they accepted me in the program and I started like 3 months later.
Oh,
So,
cool.
I applied like the end of November and the program started in the beginning of January. Went back to San Diego, gave my 30-day notice, packed up all my stuff, moved up to LA, found an apartment, started school in January, and then graduated April's of 2016, 3.5 years later.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a whirlwind. I mean, it was the most intense thing that I ever did. And I doubted myself, and people that knew me doubted me, but I was very determined based on what my mission was. And I felt like, because chiropractic had helped me so much, this would be a way for me to give back.
Right. Yeah. And you're such a giver. And, it's like you just feel your heart when you're with you. And, it's like, yes, for sure, you were supposed to do what you're doing. No question. So I love that story. Thank you for giving that background because I knew there was magic in it. And I knew that just after meeting you, there's so much more depth to what you do. You help people, but there's so much more depth there, like what, and now people understand where it comes from. And that's what I wanted to express.
Mm,
So now let's talk about you. You barely do chiropractic anymore.
correct.
You've started this. How did you start finding these machines and going into all these the Tesla tubes and all those? You need to describe what this Back to the Future feeling that I have is.
So
The,
I
are you like Tesla in a different body? Like that's
maybe I
maybe you.
reincarnated or something. I don't really know for sure, but it's always a possibility. Um, but I started to really I enjoy the chiropractic work. People tell me that I'm good at it. I also do hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and so I have that. But I kind of developed my own sort of neurological energy work based chiropractic. And I spend a lot of time with people. I listen to what they say. I use my hands to do healing on them beyond just, spinal manipulations. And then one of my friends told me, hey, there's this guy up in Orange County and he wants to come down and tell you about this device. Okay. And I'm like, okay, it's a multi-level marketing thing, and
Right.
everybody wants to tell everybody about their multi-level marketing devices. But I was open to hearing about it, no pun intended. It's called the Healy. I
Okay,
don't know, you
yes,
may
the
have heard
Healy.
of the Healy.
Yes, I've heard of the
And it's like
Healy.
this little, like, watch-sized wearable thing that you put bracelets on and it sends energy into your body. And I never bought it because I wanted to sell them and become part of the MLM thing. I was just curious about frequency stuff. And I really started to believe in it because of that. And then about 6 months later, in February of 2022, this lady literally called me. It was February 22nd of 2022. She called me at 2:22 exactly in the afternoon, and her phone number had a slew of twos in it as well.
Wow.
And she said, hey, I just started this company, and basically I'm a broker for all these different quantum frequency technologies. And here's a link to my website. Go check out my website. She had like 8 pages of different technologies. And I just kind of went through and intuitively picked out some things that I thought would be a good fit for here. And I'd never seen any of these things or never done any of those things. And she called me up the next day, and I spent close to $50,000 on buying these technologies just straight out of the gates. And so I got the bioresonance analysis, the NLS system, which is a full body scan, which you've done. And nobody in San Diego is doing that. I got a full Rife machine, which some people have, but that's also a really powerful device. And then a few months later, I ended up buying the far infrared sauna capsule because it says Pleiades capsule on it. And I thought, oh, it's the Pleiades thing, so I must have that.
Oh,
And then a
funny.
few months after that, I decided to, in October, I bought 4 of these Tesla carousels. Okay.
For
And so the
people
company,
watching, they can see behind him, but the ones that are on the podcast won't. But behind him is, you can watch it on YouTube if you want to have a visual.
yeah, and we can do a demonstration too if we get a chance during this
Yeah, that would be fun.
interview. And so anyway, same thing. They said, well, normally you put one of these at the head and one of these at the feet, and you lay in between it on a massage table. We've got 4 of these carousels to choose from. You just have to pick 2 and then decide which 2 you want. And I was like, well, I don't want to. I want all of them. So I bought 4 of them. And it was the same thing. They're expensive devices. I'd never seen them before. I never knew anything, but my Pleiadian sense just was like my tingling just went off, and I was just like, oh, these are the tools that they were telling me about,
Hmm.
that I really should get. And then the hyperbaric business and all the other businesses. I mean, I was so busy that it was crazy. But this
Wow.
was just a means for, like, when the opportunity arose to purchase these machines, they were just like, well, you can finance it, or you can go get a loan from the bank. I was like, no, who do I make the check out to?
Huh.
You know,
Wow, really?
I just straight up wrote a check for all these
Wow.
things, for every single device. And I'd never even, like I said, I'd never even tried any of them, or I never even knew what they were or read anything about them. It was just a
You
straight,
knew.
like, yes, like this is it. These are the tools. So I bought the 4 Tesla lights, and one night, I don't know, I was sleeping in my bed about 3 months after having the first 4, and I swear that Nikola Tesla like came into my dream, and he showed me, like, okay, look, you have these 4, but there's something missing. What you really need to do is add 2 more to make it 6. And so there's 3 alternating current boxes and 3 direct current boxes. And it lines up like 2 overlapping Merkabahs, like 2 triangles. It looks like the Star of David or whatever. And I got up the next morning and I called one of the owners of the company who's a psychic medium. He's the
Huh.
one who helped arrange the noble gases in these carousels. And they're arranged in a way that creates it's almost like listening to the murmurs of angels. It's so
Yes.
cosmically and
I,
divinely inspired and oriented. And he's the medium of that. And
huh.
I told him about it, and he goes, hang on a second. I need to put the phone down for a second. Puts the phone down, comes back on about a minute later, and he's like, I don't know where you came up with this idea, but it's genius. It's brilliant. And so I've implemented it and did the six. And like I said, the normal setup is just two carousels, but I don't do things normally. If you
Right.
go to my website, you can see the picture of those, and it's really fascinating and amazing. And
And
just
I've
the
done
way
it a
that
couple times,
and
so
the
I
way that it
know.
makes you feel when you do it, you almost feel like, I had that near death experience, and I experienced that sort of out of body state. And I really experienced my soul, the crystalline energy being that we all are, that we forgot about.
Hmm.
It's almost like diving into that pool and just being immersed in that state while you're
Right.
there. And so it's really quite amazing. And that's where we are.
So, because I've done that with you a couple times, and I
Mhm.
know the feeling, and I know what you mean by the angels and the feeling and the sound, and but with explain to people the benefits and what you when you're laying there, what is it doing? Because I know I hold on to two copper
Yeah,
what rods.
those aren't really related to the system. They're just things that I've added in, and you might be able to get a glimpse of the carousels over here. And I've added crystals and grids of
Right.
crystals and set up all kinds of things because I love crystals, And those are Lemurian pathway receptor rods, and they were channeled by this lady. I bought them on Etsy, and she channeled the Lemurians. And so there's a lot of really powerful crystalline energy in those as well. And so I feel like combining those two together makes a really big difference. But you can hold crystals. I've laid crystals on people's body. People bring in their own crystals or charms or things that they want to get energized by the lights. So basically, what I would describe it as is a biophotonic light activation system. And we when you go outside into the sun, you're getting your DNA is like an antenna, and you're getting in packets of light code information that activate your DNA. So people have been talking about like the shifts in the Schumann resonance and the shifts in the cosmic frequencies of water, and that all these things are really amplifying right now. We're in a like these times were foretold by ancient people. Like we're so lucky to be alive right now because
Right.
we're witnessing all these amazing shifts in the energy and the frequencies. And people are starting to realize more about themselves as being conscious light beings rather than just, automaton primates, looking for the next meal or the next baseball game or whatever it is.
Right.
And so a lot of people are gravitating more towards these frequency medicine type things. And I'll give all the credit back to Nikola Tesla, George Lahovsky, all these different people who were really pioneers, Royal Rife, they're pioneers in developing these plasma technologies. But even Nikola Tesla would say he would like close his eyes or go to sleep, and he was a channel,
Hmm.
and he would get visions of these machines, and then he would wake up and just without any drawings or anything, he would just start tinkering and putting things together. So we have to give credit where credit's due. And people always say like, hey, the future of medicine is frequency medicine. And I'm going, really? I get that because we're at a place where these things are starting to be used. But Nikola Tesla wrote an 18-page paper and gave a speech in 1898 in
That's what I was
Buffalo,
gonna
New
say.
York, at the American Bioelectrotherapeutic Association. And you
Right.
can see that paper. I have a copy of it. He talked about how, from working on developing electricity and energy, that it changed his body. It
Hmm.
activated his DNA, it charged up his cells. And so essentially, that is what these machines are doing. They're using this biophotonic energy. It's almost like we simulated the sun, and we're creating these packets of light codes that are transmuting your DNA and energizing your cells. And we've got center tubes that are filled with a proprietary mix of gases that activate the Kundalini energy system. Each one of these carousels is filled with a different arrangement of noble gases. And when you activate the Tesla coil, it charges up these tubes, and it creates like a harmonic resonant frequency of energy. And so they cross with each other. You've got alternating current and direct current boxes all rotating around, and when they converge with each other, they make like what we call 0 point energy, which is like what I said. Like when I died, I feel like I went to a place of 0 point energy. It was
Hmm.
this perfect beauty and like pure. direct connection with source. Like you're not a chip off the block. You are source. You just, when you're here, you don't remember that.
Right.
So
When you
these
talk about
devices,
that experience, sorry, I just came
yeah.
into my mind. Can you
Mhm.
go back there so quickly? Is your
I
memory like that?
I feel like what I remember, and like when people come in here and they'll hand stuff to me and they'll say, can you bless this or can you charge it up or whatever? And all I can ever remember is just like that sort of like group family hug that I
Oh,
experienced, that pure, perfect love and compassion and light. And I feel like that is the state that you get to when you come here, but you don't have to have a near death experience or have anything traumatic happen to you. So I
right.
feel like it's sort of like dipping your foot in that pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I call it like being in the palm of source.
Right.
It's just you're right there and it's reconnecting you. And then when you come out of this experience, your whole life changes because you start to remember that soul contract that you came here to accomplish. And like, people walk up to me at stores and start asking me questions, and like this weird synchronicity is like meeting you and meeting other people. And it's not weird synchronicities, it's just part of the divine plan that's unfolding right in front of our faces.
Right. And why now? Why do you tell me your take on this, the energy and the late, since I started this podcast in 2020 and it was that download. It was, you need to do a podcast. I don't
Right.
have no idea. Right.
Oh,
And
those were some really dark times
yeah, but I
that we
didn't, it
were
wasn't
going
dark
through.
yet. It wasn't, it hadn't even, we hadn't
You
even started the
started.
pandemic yet. And I just thought, and then I realized as the days went on, and I had to go pick up the girls from the quarantine, 2 week quarantine, right? That I would have time to do that. But my evolution in the last 5.5 years of even I could look back at the podcast and who I interviewed at the beginning, it was like these little nuggets along the way. But now, when you say this time, like we all had our hands up, like we want to come down right now, like we are
Right.
ready to go. And obviously, you had to experience that near death experience to realize it's like this shift in my. And you had to realize what was the plan that you made the contract, but explain to, because I love listening to someone's perspective on what the earth shift is right now, why we feel the way we do, the Schumann resonance, I mean, I go outside on my walks and it's just a different walk. It's not the same. The birds, the
Right.
sunlight, the way the soil looks I mean, everything has shifted. And this last year for me, I have seen a different earth.
So I mean, about cymatics, like if I took a plate of sand and just put a pile of sand on a plate and then turned a vibration thing on, that based on the frequencies of that vibration, the sand would sort of organize itself in different patterns based on
Right.
that. And
Yes,
I
I've
feel
seen
like
that.
these frequency shifts that we're going through are directly related. So the earth, somebody discovered Schumann himself discovered that the earth kind of has like a heartbeat and it's 7.83 hertz. And then human beings, almost like I think of like an astronaut in space being tethered to the space station. Like we're such a direct reflection of the earth itself, and that our alpha brain waves are 7.83 hertz. So we're almost in like a perfect synchronization, like we're beating together as one.
Hmm.
But now, as the Schumann resonance, we have these charts and they show the Schumann resonance going all over the place, up and down, and surges and massive solar flares coming in, and all the energy coming in from this local sun and the central sun, and they're sending in information. And our DNA is basically like antennas. And so when you do this light system, it activates your DNA strands. We're not going to call it junk DNA. We might call it dormant, or, just
Hmm.
kind of sitting there waiting for somebody to turn the light switch on. But when that happens, I went to a conference in San Diego back in January of 2024, and Greg Braden was one of the speakers, and he spoke about this study that they had done for 20 years. DNA is ATGC, the
Right.
codes of the enzymes that make that up. And he said, well, they studied language of like the Sumerians and the Egyptians and the Greeks and all these people, and they wanted to determine what does this ATGC mean? And he said after 20 years, they came to this conclusion that it means God within you.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. So when we're doing these things and when our DNA is being activated, we're being more directly connected with source. And so if our true purpose is to be here to bring peace and love and light to this realm, and the more light there is, the less darkness there is. Okay. And the dark forces have kind of got their hooks in, and they've been manipulating humanity for a long time, and, exploiting us and doing dark things. And so this is the time where it's like, okay, that's over.
Mm.
But during these shifting times, there's a lot of disconnection, because if you're used to having your heartbeat being this and the earth's heartbeat is this, and now all of a sudden the earth's heartbeat's over here, then you're feeling disconnected from that. So people that are really sensitive, I call them star seeds, and everybody probably has some of that capability. We're feeling like, anxious and having sleep problems, and all these other things are happening, but it's really part of this whole process that you might describe as ascension symptoms.
Huh. I love
And so I think a lot of these tools are really designed to assist and guide us during this ascension process. It's like, okay, well, we were driving this car, now come over here and get on this bus.
right.
And people that are doing this type of work are really just drawn to this. We went to Conscious Life Expo this last year and this year, and they have 35,000, 40,000 people. And my original goal was like, oh, I'm going to activate everybody. I'm going to like change the whole world. And then what would happen is people would just walk by, and they'd have like the blinders on. They walk by, these lights are running, and they're loud and they're bright. And how can somebody miss that? But it's just like they're just not tuned in. And
Right.
somebody else walks around the corner and they're like, my God, what is this? I have no
Right.
idea what it is, but sign me up. I want to try it.
Right.
And so now I really kind of see it as it's like a family reunion,
Mm-hmm.
a coalescence. We're kind of bringing in the same way those floats just like all joined together at your float thing the other day,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
everyone, he was at the Sound and Float. He was there
Mhm.
with his Roxiva light. You all saw it on my Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook. But he was there watching our floats and how we were like we were all connected.
They started out kind of all over the place and then grew together almost like an island,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the analogy of what I sort of see as happening right now. And so there's people that you would call activators. They do Reiki energy things. They do all kinds of different things. People that are shamans, even just people that are just didn't even know. They're just kind of having their own awakenings. They didn't even know they had these abilities. And now all of a sudden, these are the people that are coming forward to do these technologies. So we're not advertising on Google or, putting flyers up on billboards and things like that. We're just letting the universe do its thing and send the people here that are meant to be here.
Right. Like when you were saying like it's where, people are either into, like notice it or they're like clueless, right? Like
Right.
it's like they're living 3D or I mean, you could say it that way, or they're living in the next dimension. So they're not, they see
Or they'll
that.
they'll walk by and they'll go, "Oh, do you have a flyer? Do you have a website or something like that? I want some information. I want to know exactly what this is." And it's like, okay, well, every single person that came by and asked for a flyer, and they go, you talk to them and explain it to them, and they go, "Okay, I'll come back." And they
Right.
never came back.
Right.
And the people that did it walked around the corner and said, "Sign me up," just like that. They didn't need any explanation. Same thing as me with buying these things. I didn't need the scientific explanation. I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah. I'm a knowing person too. I'm very quick to make decisions. And I know that's part of my soul because everyone always says, how do you make the decisions so quick? I said, I just know. It's not
Yeah,
even a
it's
question.
like a feeling.
Right.
Just it's just an alignment. Like, I don't
Right.
know why, but
Right.
it is. That's the way it
Yeah.
is. And I learned to trust that.
Let's talk about, let's go into, see, it's already 45 minutes in, but let's go into the Roxiva light because I talk
Okay.
about that a lot in my intros so people understand the scientific about behind that. And then
Okay.
I want to talk about water.
Okay. So one of the Conscious Life Expos, the first one that I went to, I'm waiting in the lobby for them to open it back up the next morning. And there's this guy sitting there next to me drinking coffee, and we just had that synchronicity. We just started talking. I said, well, what do you do? Oh, he does the Roxiva lamps. He was there demonstrating the Roxiva lamps. And now you go, what do you do? And I'm here selling the Tesla lights and doing sessions with people. He goes, okay, well, they opened the door up and he came over and tried mine. And before we started in the morning, I went over and tried his. And I just made the decision. Again, I did try it this time before buying it, but I already made the decision like, okay, I'm going to get this thing because it's really absolutely amazing. And it's a full body experience because it involves strobing lights and your eyes are closed, but you'll see all these fractal patterns and colors. I mean, and it can be really intense,
Mm-hmm.
and the music is synchronized with it. So the lights are going and the music's going. The chair underneath you is vibrating, and it's a full experience. But I kind of liken it to similar to what the Tesla lights are doing because I feel like it creates a bridge to a state of higher consciousness. So it's like a frequency activator, and it's hitting your pineal gland, and your pineal gland actually has rods and cones in it the same way that your eyes do. So when you close your eyes and you just imagine that you're sitting on a beach and you can feel the wind blowing on you and you can hear the waves and you can maybe see a seagull fly by you or something, even though your eyes are closed, that's because of your pineal gland, which is like also like an antenna of consciousness. And I feel like, without getting into too much detail, some of the things that are being done to us on this level are designed to really kind of like block and obstruct that.
Right.
And this is like putting a key in a lock and opening the doorway, and you get that passage. And I mean, I get such a thrill seeing people do it because, some people have just laughed hysterically the whole time they've done it. Most people just get this huge smile on their face, and you can just see like they'll start dancing to the music or they'll just really get into it. Some people get like close their eyes and their mouth hangs open and their tongue sticks out.
Oh,
But
funny.
honestly, it's the coolest thing. And then when you sit them back up in the chair and take the headphones off, and they're just like, wow, that was amazing. And you say, did you realize that there was absolutely zero color coming out of the lights?
Right.
And
That's
I don't want to like blow the
crazy.
big secret because I don't like to tell people that in advance of doing it. Because
Right.
I want to like, they'll be like, okay, well, explain to me how that happened because I saw all these colors and shapes and they were very vivid. And you
Mm-hmm.
can even do things like, squint your eyes and it'll change the color and shape of things. And you can, with your eyes closed, you can kind of look this way or look that way or look up or look down. And it kind of changes the experience of what you're having. And there's 4 different categories of experiences that you can have with the device. So some of them are more like calming, meditative experiences. Some of them are guided meditations. Some of them are designed to like boost memory and cognition, performance. If you're going to go run a marathon or you're going to go take a
Oh,
test, some of them have like, like it's a guided meditation for breathing and it synchronizes with the light. Some of them are designed to help you sleep better, manage your stress better. And the ones that I typically like to do at the shows, we call cyberdelic. So they're expanded states of consciousness. So it gives you like a higher state. Some people have described it as like a DMT like experience or ayahuasca or something like that. But you don't have to take any substances in your
right.
body to get this experience. But it kind of transforms your brain into that higher state of consciousness. And it kind of makes you forget the me part, like the ego part is just sort of gone for that experience. And then you just wake back up and it's like the same thing. It's like, wow, I wake up and I feel like my brain is so activated and I just can't
Yeah.
believe that that was an experience that was possible.
When you're saying smiling, because Richard did it that night before the
Mhm,
bath, and
mhm.
he was smiling and he was like, "Oh, and he's not a skeptic, but he's not like can't wait to
Right,
try all these things, right?"
right.
But the times that I've done it, it's I've done it a few times, and I know the one time, the last time I did it, I don't know if they layer upon each other. Every time you do it, it becomes a different experience because the last time I did it, I went into this complete where I felt, I don't want to say I was on drugs, but I know that I've never been on drugs. So maybe it was, but
Right.
when they say it's similar to a DMT experience or ayahuasca, I
Mhm.
was like so in somewhere. I was somewhere else. I
You're
know
connected to
I was
source, and
like, what?
you're connected with source, and you
Yes,
experience that crystalline light energy. Like it's not an experience of like me going on a roller coaster. It's
right.
like an experience of almost like going out of your body and
Yes, I went out of
experiencing
my
like
body for sure.
you're experiencing yourself as your soul crystalline light being energy frequency.
Yeah, that's what I felt. And does it layer like the more you do that?
It does because I've done the same programs. Like because I have it here, I'm really fortunate. I get to play with these things all day long, and
Right.
I think of them as like toys, even
Mm-hmm.
though they're very powerful tools. But so it's like I like to go to events and share my toys and show people how these things can affect you. And yeah, I have done the same programs over and over again. And I would say, even though the stimulus, because the light flickering is the same pattern, the music is the same pattern, the vibration is exactly the same pattern, but the independent variable is me every time. So it's
Right.
like, what state am I in when I go there? What intention did I set beforehand when I started it? What kind of experience was I looking for? And there's over 200 programs in the device, and I've nearly done every single one of them.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm going to get one of those machines.
Yeah.
And I want to do it every day because it's not, I don't want to say it's addicting, but you get such a different feeling. You just feel like you're out of body. It's a crave, you crave it, I guess
You
is the
can
word.
do anywhere from like a 4-minute session all the way up to a 60-minute session.
Yeah, I would love to do a 60-minute.
And I've been combining the Rife machine. If you want to switch into talking about other devices,
Right.
I've been combining the Rife machine, which has these two plasma wands that you set the frequencies for. And I usually, for the combination, I'll set them to a general healing setting, but you could use it if somebody had like a sore throat, you could set it for that. You could set it
Huh.
for specific pathogens like strep or E. coli. I've done it for people that had bone injuries or wanted wound healing or just had some dental procedures done or something like that. I mean, there's over 1,294 programs in the book that you can
Oh
choose from.
my gosh.
And it usually combines multiple frequencies, and you can change the patterns of the waves that are coming in. You can create carrier waves. And so it has a lot of variability. And there's these two brass handhelds that you can hold. I like to lay in that chair and like take the plasma wands and put them under my armpits and hold the electrodes. And you can really feel the vibration and the electricity running through those. And then there's these brass plates that you can put your feet on, set your feet on, so you can get this frequencies going in your whole body. And one day I was sitting in the room with the chair doing a Rife session, and I was like, this is kind of cool, but it's kind of boring. And I was like, I looked up and I saw the Roxiva lamp above me, and I was like, oh, why don't I just turn that thing on? And so I did a combination of the Roxiva lamp with the Rife machine and found out that it was really super powerful combination. So now I'm selling packages of those where people will come in and do like 35, 40 minutes of combination of both of those. And I call it circuit training.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And I've done that, everybody, and it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like, let's talk about just a couple of the other machines that you love,
Okay.
that you believe in. And I did my whole body analysis,
The
and now
bioresonance
the
analysis.
bioresonance was amazing, and
Yeah.
I've done that. So I would love to talk about that. We might
Okay.
have to go over unless you have somebody coming in right away.
No, we're okay. We can go
Okay,
a little longer, but
okay.
I'll
And
tell
then
you whatever.
and then the water thing,
Okay.
because I've learned so much even since I've known you about, I've been doing my research on the water and how I just don't think people realize, you could think you're drinking this glass water bottle from Jimbo's, and it's just, you think it's the cleanest water you can find, and it's not. But let's talk about whatever you want to. You can start with water if you
Okay,
want.
so I went to the Rife machine. I talked about the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We use mild soft-sided chambers here, and basically it's a pressurized environment. And you go in for about an hour, and I use light therapy pads. I've got a light therapy pad that fits over your head. It uses red and near infrared light to give energy to your body. It releases nitric oxide that dilates the blood vessels and lets more of that oxygen get in there. It hypersaturates the blood plasma, which is the liquid portion of the blood, and that allows your body to get more energy. And so again, your cells are taking everything in that you've consumed and turning that into energy. But it's almost like if you've ever had a fire and you wanted to put the fire out. Let's say you had cooking something on the stove and it caught on fire. Well, you take the lid, put the lid on top of it, and starve the oxygen, and the fire goes out. So
Right.
when you pile in all this extra oxygen, you're adding in the rate limiting factor for the conversion. Like oxygen is the fuel in the electron transport chain that makes the mitochondria produce ATP energy along with food that you've converted into different chemicals. And so, when people are having low oxygen states, this is where the anaerobic pathogens really survive. Otto Warburg talked about oxygen as a root cause. Like low oxygen states are your body will go into like an immune response of low energy and low oxygen. And then we start giving labels to those diseases that are very common. And so while we don't promote any of these devices as capable of diagnosing or treating any diseases, we understand that sometimes the root causes of diseases are things like parasites, low oxygen, and low energy.
Right.
So if we can address those things, then we can prevent diseases. We can keep people in an optimal resonant frequency state that allows them to stay healthy. It's anti-aging. You can live longer. You can be more healthy and enjoy your life better by doing these things. So I think it's important to mention the hyperbaric oxygen. We talked about the Ruxiba and the Rife. Then over on this side, we have talked about the Tesla lights and the bioresonance analysis. Basically, it's a nonlinear measurement system, and all these things are described in great detail on my website. I won't use up a whole lot of time now describing what they do, but it's a way of analyzing your bioelectromagnetic signature in different aspects of your body, your brain, your lungs, your heart, your blood vessels, your veins, your lymphatic system, your connective tissues, your chemistry, your chromosomes, your DNA. And all these things can be analyzed. And then if we find them to be at a low state, we can use energy to entrain them back to a more optimal state. We can identify pathogens and microorganisms and stress things and trauma things. We can make like homeopathic remedies. So we found, somebody came in and their energy was low. And when we asked the system to tell us what energy they needed, it said they needed amethyst. So instead of having them buy an amethyst, we programmed the frequency of amethyst into some water and gave it to them and said, hey, go take this drops and put this drops in your water and it'll give you the frequency. That's homeopathics. And then there's a optimum detox foot bath scenario that you put your feet in this copper bucket, and there's a machine that creates negative and positive ions, and those send energy into your cells and really activate the detoxification pathways. People come in all the time. They say, yeah, I just did a parasite cleanse, or I just did a heavy metal detox. And it's like, okay, well, how did you prepare yourself for that? If you were going to go run a marathon, you wouldn't just tie your shoes on that day and go run 26 miles. You would have to train. And
Right.
so I'm training people how to activate the detox pathways by using things like the foot bath and the far infrared sauna capsule. So you've got far infrared sauna capsule, you lay in it, your head sticks out. You lay in there for about 35 minutes and it heats your body up to about 104 degrees. So a lot of wet saunas or dry saunas will be set at like 150, 180 degrees. And it feels like you stepped in an oven and you go in there and you start sweating. And you can go in this far infrared sauna fully clothed and you won't
Huh.
even break a sweat. But the far infrared is a spectrum of light that can penetrate through the tissues and it basically heats you from the inside out. So it activates circulation and it's giving energy to your cells and it's activating detoxification pathways. Some people really like the fact that you can lay in here for 30 minutes and burn 600 calories.
Yeah. What a bonus.
Yeah. And then there's light therapy pads in the lid that have a different range of spectrums from red, green, blue, yellow, combinations of those. And then there's speakers on the sides. So you can turn the lights off and just get into a really calm, relaxed state and listen to music and everything like that. And then this weekend on Sunday, I'm going to be sending some friends up to Riverside to pick up another system for me, which is a crystal bed, and it uses these 7 Vogel crystals that kind of synchronize with your chakras. And there's a bar that goes across the top, so it kind of projects these crystal light energies down to your body and activates your crystalline energy in your body.
Huh. We're
So that's
always
another new
finding new
thing.
things, right?
Every time you talk to me, I'm gonna have some new things that I've added. And then an important thing to talk about is like, okay, well, I'm doing all these things here solo. Okay, I don't have anybody that I work with. And so I'm collaborating more and more with other people. I'm like coming out to your place and doing that event, went to Men's Kundalini activation and did that event, and been invited a lot back to a lot of these events. And so if anybody out there wants to have me bring the Tesla lights to an event, or the Roxiva lamp to an event, just get in touch with me. I'm happy to explore those opportunities.
Yes, and you're coming to the retreat in
Yeah.
October with Jeannie. I can't wait. Everyone keeps asking because I talk about you so much, and
Yeah,
I can't
thank
wait
you.
to share you with them. And then let's just end with how important water is and what you found. And I've been drinking your water when I come in, and how you muscle tested me, and I hadn't even swallowed the water yet.
Right. And so a lot of people, if we were to take a hydrometer, which is a machine that you blow into like a breathalyzer test,
Uh-huh.
it'll measure how much water's in your body. And I guarantee you, if we just took that machine out on the streets, we'd find that 95% of people are dehydrated. So
Right.
it's not just an issue of hydration. Water is frequency. If you're swimming in the pool and it starts to lightning, you get the hell out of the pool because you don't want to get shocked. So
Right.
water is a carrier of electricity. And it's not just, like pouring water into a cup and seeing the levels fill up. You don't just pour water into your body and your body's filled up with water. Just like when you eat food, it's broken down by your stomach and your pancreas and your gallbladder and your liver digest things. And then in the electron transport chain, things are converted to different chemicals that can be used. The Krebs cycle breaks things down into certain chemicals or get handed off to. So the production of energy in your body is really dependent upon hydration, electricity, nutrition, and all these things. And so people are coming in and say, well, what kind of water do you drink? Oh, I drink filtered water. Well, what kind of filter? Oh, the one on my refrigerator. Okay. And so then we have these devices that measure things like the pH, which is important to a certain extent. You're not going to really change the pH in your body by drinking high pH water. But what you
Mhm.
are going to do is you're going to preserve the buffering mechanisms that get activated when you eat or drink something that has a lower pH than where your body should be. Your blood has a very narrow range, 7.4 to 7.45 pH, like all day long. And so all these systems are designed to maintain that pH balance in your blood. But your stomach is a 1 pH, your pancreas is a 2.5 pH. So when you're drinking these alkaline waters, you're not alkalizing your body per se. You're giving good energetic fluid to the lymphatic system, which is the garbage system. So you don't want the rivers running dry and all these
Right.
toxins getting left behind. But the most important part about the water is the electrical charge that it carries. So if you were to go to Mount Shasta and take your gallon jug and just dip it in the headwaters and then take it to a lab and have it analyzed, you'd realize that water in nature has a negative electric charge to it. And the water that people are drinking, when we measure it, even like you said, the expensive, I won't mention any names or anything, but you get water in a glass bottle, or you bring your glass bottle to the store and they have this machine that supposedly filtered the water and it's ultra pure, clean water. Having no contaminants in the water is a good thing. But the charge of the water is what's really important. Is this water alive? Is it living? Is it structured? Or is it like dead, stale water? Did it sit in a plastic bottle in a warehouse for 6 months and get delivered on a truck that produced gas? And, we're perpetuating the use of, petroleum products and things like that, and our dependence on non renewable sources of energy. And so, also the water machines make this really powerful, one of the most antioxidant substances on the world in the universe is hydrogen, molecular hydrogen. So the devices that I offer make molecular hydrogen. They create a negative oxidative reduction potential. They take the water molecules and they separate out the acidic water, so it comes out one side of the machine, and then the ionized alkaline water, which you can change the settings for, can slow the flow rate down, so it changes that. And then people that start drinking this water, they come back and they're just like, wow, I can't believe that it made such a big difference. But I feel more cognitively alert. I feel my memory is better. I don't feel like I have headaches. I don't feel like I'm all dried out. So I would say the biggest opportunities for people to change what they're doing are incorporating some of the frequency devices, drinking the electrolyzed reduced water, and focusing on their nutrition. Because when you eat foods that are acidic, that also changes your body and it slows down the delivery of oxygen. Certain microorganisms and pathogens use aspects of the foods that people are eating as building blocks to create these biofilms, which are basically like cities inside of you. So they work together and build these little cities inside of you and hide underneath them. And your immune system just cruises right by, and that's how they survive.
Yeah. Oh, you're so you I've learned so much from you in the last few weeks that we've known each other. Love it. Oh, thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Dr. Christopher McLean. Will you tell everyone how to get a hold of you and your website and all your
Certainly. Yeah,
information?
and when you said that, I'm seeing sparkles all over the place right now.
Oh,
So
good.
cool. So yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is to visit my website. It's called quantumactivationcenter.com. And like I said, it lists all the modalities. There's a page on there that lists the items that are for sale. If anybody has questions about any of the items that are for sale, that's a good way, and has a phone number on there. And it has a little messaging thing. So you can send me a message and just say, hi, I'm interested in this technology. And you can call that number and schedule an appointment to come in. You can come to Ashley's retreat in October and see me there. And then, we do the Conscious Life Expo in February up in LA. That's a really cool experience. Like I said, 35,000, 40,000 people.
Wow.
It's a whirlwind. And we do other expos, and then we host private events here, and we're available for booking for private events also.
Yes, I love it. So anyone here listening around San Diego or Orange County or LA that would drive out, it's worth the drive. I'll
I have
tell you
people
that.
that fly in from all over the country to come see me
Yeah, I'm sure. The Tesla, there's only two people in the country that have that
on the planet.
on the planet. Holy moly.
Okay, other people have two of the Tesla coils, and there's hundreds of people around the United States and around the world that have these systems. But myself and the other person that have two are the only two people that have those. And I actually was the first one. I don't know if that's like a sign of
Yeah,
pride
that's
or
cool.
whatever, but the other person called me up and asked me about it, and I told them how I did it, and they kind of duplicated that. And so this is like, if you look at anthropology, you can say, well, in Peru, people started lighting fires and cooking food around the same time that they were doing it in Africa and Europe and Asia. And it's sort of like this collective consciousness that arose. And that's kind of the same thing with these frequency things. And I would say one last thing, that I saw something the other day that doctors are telling stories about, patients used to just come in and they'd say, yeah, take this piece of paper to the pharmacy and they'll fill it out. And now doctors have said that basically on average, 80% of the people are going like, what the hell is this? What
Huh.
else can I do?
Right. They're
Is there
waking up.
something else that I can do? And just because the system was designed to just give you this piece of paper to take to the pharmacy doesn't mean that people aren't going to start asking questions. And so if the doctor says, well, I don't really know, that's because they weren't trained. But
Right.
there are people out here that do know. And so seek people out like that. There's a lot
Right.
of people in the community that are, you know, on the cutting edge of this giant ascension shift that's happening.
Right. I mean, when I think of in your future, like I can just, if you keep adding these machines, you're going to have to make this big, huge, you're going to have to expand your place.
My
Bec-
footprint. Yeah.
But I
And
feel
I think,
like everybody, I
well,
feel like just because I'm so attracted to it, and I know like Gina and all my, my friends at my soul tribe sisters that can't wait to meet you and experience this. Um, it's just going to be one of those things where it's gonna, like how AI, Chat GPT or, is now like everybody is in there, right? Where
Right,
all the technology's gone so fast in
right.
the last, I mean, even in the last 5 years, it's changed, but now I
Amazing.
think it's just gonna go so fast. But I see people like you say, they're not gonna just take that stupid paper with the prescription for the Band-Aid that they're gonna take. They're gonna
Right.
know that they have to go deeper and find what's the undercurrent, what's going on in your body, and fixing it that way versus taking these pills.
And shows like yours and other people that have interviewed me that are being bridges to help get people this information are so vital. And we're very grateful for you and other people that are doing this kind of work. So thank you also for what you're doing. And thank you for coming and experience this, being open-minded and sharing it with people. Because even advertising traditionally was just, you spend a bunch of money, you cast a wide net. And this is very different. This is like, almost totally based on word of mouth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. You couldn't, there's no advertising. When
Yeah.
I advertise you, I'm like, it's kind of like Back to the Future. I don't know how to explain
Right.
it. You just have to
Do you have
go.
time for me to turn this on for a second?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, no, let me not. Let's do another
Okay,
video
let's
where
do another one
let's
then.
do
And
another video because
we'll
then
feature those.
people, yeah.
You can go on my website and see a picture of these. And then if you live in San Diego on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, we are meeting as a group of 8 and doing private sessions with the Tesla lights.
Yeah, so go to his website, go to his phone number, and contact him if you want to do that too. I'm going to be doing that. All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
loved
you
it.
very much. That was
Thank you.
great.